What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news, or should I say some old news, some classic news concerning Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas. Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas was on February 11th, which is 30 years old to this day. Was a professional boxing match that occurred in Tokyo, Japan in 1990. The event is historically significant as the then undisputed heavyweight champion Mike Tyson lost by knockout to the 42-1 underdog Buster Douglas. The fight is widely considered one of the biggest upsets in sports history. Japan paid $6 million to boxing officials for the privilege for staging Mike Tyson's fight in Tokyo. Now, the ironic thing about this fight was it was billed as Tyson is back, so Tyson is back, and it was one of those situations where Mike Tyson was having all types of problems with Robin Givens. At that time, he had recently signed with Don King, which was another strike against him inside the ring and outside the ring, mostly outside the ring because, he had split with a longtime trainer, Kevin Rooney. And of course, we know about Customato. And then Customato was, the mentor of him as well as the trainer of him. And he protected Mike, and he helped Mike through a lot of problems. Okay, so when Customato expired, so to speak, passed, he was left to a lot of people that he shouldn't have been around. Okay, now Buster Douglas was ranked at number 7 heavyweight by the Ring magazine and had met mixed success in his professional boxing career. His previous title fight was against Tony Tucker in 1987, in which he was TKO'd in round 10. However, a string of 6 concussive wins gave him an opportunity to fight Tyson. Okay, now, a lot of things happened before this fight on both sides, on Buster Douglas' side and Mike Tyson's side. Of course, we know about Mike Tyson with Don King and Robin Givens. And, Mike Tyson didn't get the proper training, of course, because he thought this was going to be a walk in the park with Buster Douglas because nobody could beat Kid Dynamite, right? Up until that time. But we've talked about that, but we didn't talk about what happened to Buster Douglas. He did have a string of wins, okay? Now, he did win a plethora of fights to get the opportunity to fight Mike Tyson, working himself up to number 7 on the Ring magazine. That gave him the opportunity, but by far he was, of course, a huge underdog for that fight. A huge underdog. And one thing that people didn't know amongst coming over to Tokyo, Japan, Buster Douglas's mom passed, and that really, a lot of people, her name was Lula Pearl, okay, 23 days before the fight. Now imagine that, that's not even a month. Your mother dies a month before, or not even a month before, and then you have the fight of your life. And I say it to a lot of people. People can say whatever they want to say about Buster Douglas. They can say he was an underdog. They can say he, whoa, what a long shot. What a lucky punch or whatever. No. Sometimes tragedy motivates people in ways unexplainable. And this is an example of such. Because you have a guy, because look, I can relate to him. My mother died 6 years ago. And it's still, sometimes I still feel it hard to deal with. But when she did pass, on a personal note, when my mother did pass, for a couple months, I didn't do anything. Like nothing, not work, not focus on too much. Drank a little bit, did some long walking and whatever. But focusing on something that's concerning my career, my occupation, no. I passed work down because of that happened because I wasn't mentally there. Okay. Like I said, some people have it and some people don't because I did not have it. Buster Douglas had it. And that motivated him, And the mother of his son was facing a severe kidney ailment and had contracted the flu on the day before the fight. So a lot of things that he was fighting through. So this was a success story. A lot of people, we've seen the Mike Tyson story, but I think they really should invest in a Buster Douglas story, a Buster Douglas movie, Now, however, the names after that or the history after that, okay, that speaks for itself. He gained 400 pounds. No, he didn't gain 400 pounds. He gained enough weight. He was over 400 pounds. So did Tyson Fury. And he came back and he fought this guy from Chicago. And the fight was a no contest. I remember that fight very, very. I think it was on Friday Night Fights, and it was actually the main event on Friday Night Fights, or was it Saturday Night Fights? But anyway, back to Mike Tyson. Some recent news came out about with Bobby Brown, and Bobby Brown was saying like, "Hey, I feel guilty that Mike Tyson lost," and everybody was like, "Well, how the hell did that happen?" And he explained. He said, "Me and Mike, the night before the fight, we got drunk and we had an orgy with these Japanese women in Japan. Up into that fight. So Tyson didn't, have what he normally would have to finish Buster Douglas off. So for that reason, he felt responsible for Mike Tyson being defeated by Buster Douglas. Now, I tell you something. There's a lot of buzz around this movie. I mean, movie. It should be a movie, but around this fight. Mike Tyson, dropped Buster Douglas. And the count was long. That was a long count, and a lot of people questioned that. And Mike Tyson came out himself and said, "I actually knocked out Buster Douglas." And it was true. The time that it took for the referee to start counting versus the time Buster Douglas got up versus the time that Mike Tyson got up and where the ref was counting was two different sequences. And that was weird. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, Jack Reese gave Tyson Fury enough time. No, that was different. Okay. People said his count was long. This particular situation, the amount of time from the time he started counting from the time that he finished, that gave Buster Douglas a normal amount of time to get up. When Mike Tyson went down, he started immediately counting. Okay. So so that was a lot of buzz around this fight. And the strange thing about that, I believe Mike Tyson went to jail before getting the rematch, and Buster Douglas went on to lose against Evander Holyfield, looking for that dynamite uppercut and got caught with a left hook. But the fight was really dynamic. But Tyson had a lot of things, Tyson's primary cornerman caught the chain from the identification badge hanging from his neck between ice gloves and Tyson's eye. As Snowell moved, Tyson winced in pain as the chain dragged from one side of his injured eye to the other. Confusing, the panic grew in his corner as the fight went on. Despite Tyson's inability to execute a fight plan, his corner continued to give him the same advice between rounds to move his head, jab his way inside, and deliver the right hand, in which 8th round Buster Douglas dominated until the last few seconds. Larry Merchant noticed Douglas is asking Tyson some questions he hasn't been asked before. In the last few rounds of the fight, you have to come back and win it. With the last 10 seconds of the 8th round, Tyson, who had been backed onto the ropes, landed a big right uppercut that sent Douglas to the canvas. Now, this explains it. Although the knockdown timekeeper began when Douglas's backside touched the ring surface, the referee was said to have started his own count behind by 2 beats. Douglas rose as the referee signaled 9, so he had already been at 11 people. So Mike Tyson had ultimately knocked out Buster Douglas. The punching power from Tyson, an injured Tyson, a Tyson with no game plan, but the raw power that he still possessed spoke for itself. It's just things like that from the referees, okay, resulted in making history, okay. So, but of course Tyson didn't get that same kind of privilege. You know, he wasn't behind 2 beats. In the dramatic 9th round, Tyson came out aggressively at the end of the fight to save his title, hoping that Douglas was still hurt from round 8 knockdown. Douglas was able to fight off Tyson's attack and was able to close Tyson's eye completely. Both men traded punches before Douglas connected on a 4-punch combination that staggered Tyson back into the ropes. With Tyson hurt along the ropes, Douglas closed in and unleashed a vicious 4-punch attack to try to knock Tyson out. Tyson tried to fight off Douglas, but it was in vain. Douglas continued to land hard punches on Tyson as the round came to a close. Tyson withstood the punishment and barely survived the 9th round. In the 10th round, Tyson pushed forward to the fight, but he was still seriously hurting from the accumulation of the punches from the round before. Tyson walked forward. Douglas measured him with a few jabs before landing a devastating uppercut, that uppercut that we were talking about, that snapped Tyson's head upward. Tyson stopped Tyson in his tracks as Tyson began to reel back from the uppercut. Douglas immediately followed with 4 punches to the head, knocking Tyson down for the first time in his career in a famous scene. Tyson fumbled for his mouthpiece on the canvas before sticking on end of his mouth with the other end hanging out. The champion attempted to make to his feet to continue fighting before the ref, Octavio Mayron, counted him out. Buster Douglas thus became the new undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, to become one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. Okay, now the official scorecards were 87-86 for Tyson, 86-86 even, and 88-83 for Douglas. So you know what that means. That means if that fight would have went on, that would have been a draw by default, because remember that Tyson already dropped Buster Douglas, and by popular demand and popular follow the money, you know, by popularity, Mike Tyson probably would have edged that out and would have had a rematch on that. Okay, but you know, but of course, we didn't know what Buster Douglas went through. So this is really a testimony to let you know, regardless of what is going on in your life, a lot of times things you can use as fuel, even though they might seem devastating, you know, life-changing things. They can motivate you to do things that's unheard of, that's unspeakable, that people won't believe. And a lot of people did not believe that Buster Douglas could beat Mike Tyson. Okay. Nonetheless, officially, Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson in the 6th round, and it was one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. So that concludes this walk down memory lane. Classic, iconic day, February 11th. Buster Douglas knocks out Mike Tyson. You guys tell me what you think about this historical event. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.